Imagine you're a 16-year-old kid in Minneapolis, Minnesota, born and raised, and you just found out that an ICE agent shot and killed a woman, a white woman at that, named Renee Nicole Good, as she was driving away from a protest. They shot her several times in the face. And you're distraught because all you can think about is how when you were 5, you found out about Jamar Clark being killed by the police in North Minneapolis. And then when you were 6, you found out about a hate crime shooting in the same town that targeted 2 Somali men. And that same year, about a week or so later, you found out in the Twin Cities area, a black man named Philando Castile was murdered by a police officer on Facebook Live. And then when you were 7, you found out in Minneapolis that a white woman named Justine Damon was shot and killed by a police officer. And of course, by the time you're 10, you saw the video of George Floyd being murdered by an officer in Minneapolis as well. And then when you were 11, you found out about Dante Wright being murdered in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, not too far from where you live. And then at the age of 11, in 2021, you also find out about Lanil Frazier, who was struck by a police vehicle and killed. And he was also the uncle of Darnella Frazier, who recorded George Floyd's lynching. And then the next year, in 2022, at the age of 12, you find out about Amir Locke, who was killed by a Minneapolis officer during a no-knock raid. And then in 2023, you're finally 13. You're a teenager now. And then you find out about Ricky Cobb II, who was killed by an officer in Minneapolis during a traffic stop when he moved his car. And in 2024, your first year in high school, you find out about Michael Risto, who appeared to be having a mental health episode, was murdered by Minneapolis officers. In 2025, you're 15, you're a sophomore in high school, and you find out that 2 Democratic lawmakers in your state were targeted in terrorist attacks at their home. And one of them, Rep. Melissa Hortman, and her husband did not survive the attacks. And at 16, it's a new year, you just got your license, you think you'll have a little more freedom, and then you receive this news. That's trauma on top of trauma on top of trauma. So what do you do if you have kids in Minnesota? What do you do if you're an educator in Minnesota? You don't act like what has happened and what has been happening is a norm that we should accept. You have to remember contextually that the state of Minnesota, as far north as it is, had as many as 20 lynchings that were documented throughout the course of American history. The worst thing you could do, trust me on this, is to act like things are okay. They aren't, and they never have been. Address it and provide a community for our kids to express how they feel. And let's work towards change.